Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our Hilltop podcast. Today we're joined by Mike Gauvain, better known as Vader, around the Chaminade campus. Welcome, Vader.
Thanks for
joining us.
Yeah.
Well, as we've talked to other folks here, we'd just love to get a little background on your life story, kind of how you got to Chaminade and sort of what you've been up to in addition to Chaminade in your life. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a long time. We're 37 years this fall.
So I was just going to say, how many years is
37? 22 teaching PE middle school for 9 years and 13 junior, senior.
Gotcha. And how long has it been since you retired now?
From teaching,
right.
Let's see, it'll be 37 this year and 22, so almost 15 years of not teaching PE, and opened a restaurant, so that kind of...
You've been a little busy. I want to get to that later too. So you've been keeping busy in quote-unquote retirement, or the second phase of your life. But let's get back to the beginning. Let's start at the beginning. Are you a lifelong St. Louisan? Give us a little bit where you grew up and your backstory.
Grew up in Afton, went to St. Timothy's, and grew up on a street, Cayuga Drive, with the other Gauvains, with Timmy, who's here, and there were 7 in my uncle and aunt's family, with Timmy being one of those 7, and I've got 2 older sisters, and we all went through St. Timothy's.
So besides being family, you literally were neighbors, or at least on the same street?
2 homes away.
2 homes away, wow.
So there were a lot of Gauvains running around, and we all took issue with our grade school principal, Mr. Jim Schulte.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what you just told me off camera beforehand. Jim Schulte was your principal, huh?
Jim was our principal, and he was a towering man at St. Timothy's when we were all there. And as luck would have it, or I don't know if it's fate, but when I got the job here, Jim was here, and it was a nice, friendly face.
Small world. We haven't had him on our podcast yet, but he's somebody to get on our radar for sure. Another Chaminade legend in that way. So what were you involved in as a kid? Obviously, you coach soccer now. Was soccer always your main sport? Other stuff you did?
Yeah, soccer and baseball. But we did everything in grade school. We, other than tackle football. We played tackle football at the parks and those types of things. But high school, it was at St. Mary's. And at the time I went to St. Mary's, you had to live in the city. And so I was worried that I wouldn't be able to go to St. Mary's. And then they opened it to the county kids, and then we had the influx, and we had over 300 in my graduating class in 1980.
Gotcha.
And I played soccer and baseball, soccer for Mr. Betlock and baseball for Coach Pernicero. And from there, got an opportunity to play in college at Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, and everything kind of fell into place after I got done there.
So let's dig into soccer a little bit more for a second here, maybe your early days at St. Timothy's and into St. Mary's. What makes, I read about, I listen to things that St. Louis is such a special place for soccer. I was a soccer player growing up into, through high school as well too. What makes St. Louis so special in that regard in terms of youth soccer and that CYC system and coming up through that?
Yeah, it was CYC initially, and then it became Corey League, and then it became St. Louis Youth Soccer Association. And when you were a kid, when you were a baby, kindergarten, first grade, the first thing you did was play soccer. And the parishes, there were numerous parishes everywhere. We were in St. Timothy's, but Mary Queen of the Universe was right up the street. Precious Blood was right up the street, all on Union Road, and everybody played soccer. That's what you did. You just played. And you played 1st through 8th grade, and then you kind of went from there into your high school career. Then the club stuff started happening, and if you were fortunate enough to make a club team, back then, something was good for you because you had to be pretty good to make a club team because there was only one club team per age group.
Right.
And so it was soccer and baseball, and it was soccer in college, and got an opportunity out of SIU to go coach a Division III school in Michigan, to be the head coach right out of college.
Wow.
And I went up to a little college called Alma College for 2 years, and then came back home and was an assistant at SIU, and then I got a call from Brother Mark Baer. They were looking for a soccer coach and a phys ed teacher here, and that's what I did at SIU. My major was education, PE, and health. And imagine that, it fell into place.
It all worked together.
Pretty lucky.
So how were your teams at St. Mary's? Were you successful on the state level and such?
Yeah, we were always good. We never got over the hump, though.
You didn't win a title?
No, we lost in a semifinal 1 year and a quarterfinal 3 years.
And what positions did you play?
I played up front, believe it or not.
Gotcha.
And I played up top and scored a few goals here and there, but we never could, Rosary knocked us out 1 year. It was the old CAC,
right,
which was Rosary and Mercy High School and Aquinas.
Yep. That's
Kennedy,
my alma mater, Kennedy
still,
yep.
And St. Mary's, Vianney. And we had it was the old Catholic Athletic Conference,
tough,
and there were so many good players.
Yeah.
You know, guys that went on to be professionals and collegiate players
Yeah.
and great players.
The Perry Vanderbeck era.
Absolutely.
And sort
Just
of
talked to
those
Perry
guys,
the
right?
other day.
Oh, did you?
Actually.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He was one of the first big names who got drafted out of high school from
Exactly.
Aquinas, and he was a senior when I was a sophomore, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's Perry Vanderbeck.
That's right.
You know,
The big celebrity.
And when I got over here to Chaminade, it was, oh my gosh, there's Mr. Ebby Dunn, and
Right.
there's Mr. Mickler, and there's
Exactly.
Mr. Vitello, and Mr. Drake. You know,
Right.
they had such a presence about themselves and the success that they had, and now I was the little guy, and but those guys were always so nice to me.
Yeah, and how about SIU? That was certainly a glory days for them and for St. Louis U. Big
Oh.
rivals of the Bronze Boot game.
Yeah,
It was
the Bronze
drawing
Boot game.
thousands to Busch Stadium in that era and
Absolutely.
such, right?
We had 4 pretty good years the year I was there. The year I came in, the previous year in '79, SIU
Oh, right. That's the
Edwardsville
year
was the
they won,
defending
yeah.
national championship. They beat Clemson in the national final.
Right.
3-2. A guy by the name of Matt Malloy scored all 3 goals. He was a senior my freshman year, and his brothers followed. And we had good teams. We got to the national semifinal in '82 and lost to Indiana, which had a lot of my high school teammates on
Gotcha.
Indiana, Keith Meyer and Pat McGauley and Dave Bonchek, who were all St. Mary's guys. They went to IU, and some of us went to SIU, some of us went to St. Louis U, and the Bronze Boot game was my freshman year, 25,000 people at Busch Stadium, and we
Right.
played every year there.
Right.
And we got them one year. We got them in '82, but '81, '80, and '83 SLU got us, and SIU finally got them back this year. But
Yeah, exactly. First time in a long time.
since '82.
I was there. Is it the first time since
First
then?
time since
Gotcha. I knew it was a
82.
long time. I didn't know it was that long, though.
Yeah, it was
Gotcha.
long. And the great thing was about the '80 season, one of the highlights of the whole '80 season was ESPN had just first started.
Uh-huh.
And we were live on ESPN
Wow.
4 games.
Gotcha.
Connecticut, Boston College, the Bronze Boot game in San Francisco, or 5 in Indiana.
Wow.
We were live on
Gotcha.
ESPN back in the day in 1980, and soccer was a big part of their programming back then, and we were fortunate enough to have good teams, and they wanted to put us on.
For sure. So what's it like to be 22 or whatever age you are exactly, and suddenly you're a head coach of a team on a college team when you're
Yeah.
a year or a couple years maybe at the most older
Well,
than some of those players?
Yeah, 1 year, and a couple guys were my age, you
Gotcha.
know, and went up to Alma. It's right in the middle of Michigan, and got to know Michigan real well for 2 years, and loved it up there, you know, and it was interesting because it was all brand new to me. I coached some club stuff, but you know, now you're doing everything. You know, you're maintaining the field like we've done here a lot of times,
Right.
and got to play at Michigan State, and I got to see a whole lot of Michigan. And we were just in a little conference, the Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association, and some good teams. We were okay. We had some decent players, but nothing great. But we had some good wins,
Sure.
a few more losses.
Sure.
But I really enjoyed my 2 years. But it was interesting having 2 or 3 players that were 23.
Yeah. How do you
and
deal with that? What
22.
do you learn about leadership there? How does it
You know, it was.
how has that shaped you, I guess, too, for
Yeah,
the
you
future?
know, the guys were decent players. You know, we had no Brad Davises or
Sure.
nothing like that, and I could still play a little bit.
Gotcha.
You know, so when we would train and those kinds of things, and I would try to do as much as I could with them. And I think just them seeing me out there with them playing and training with them, putting them through some of the things that I learned from some of my coaches, they thought that, man, I think this guy might know a little bit, you know, and I did know a little bit. And then the game and my training, everything just evolved, and got a chance to go back to SIU after Coach Gelker passed away to be an assistant with Ed Hunnicky, and was there 1 year. And then I got a call from Brother Mark Baer, who was my teacher at St. Mary's, and my homeroom teacher for a couple years. He taught social studies. He was the principal here at Chaminade.
Gotcha.
And he called me up on a Monday and told me I need to get in on Tuesday and sign a contract to be the varsity soccer coach and a middle school PE and health teacher.
You're on. One more thing before we jump into the Chaminade stuff full steam is what was it like to play for Bob Gelker, a St. Louis legend in the soccer community, and what have you sort of taken from him, that sort of legendary figure, not just here in St. Louis, but around
Sure.
the country?
No, I was really lucky to play for Coach Gelker, and I was really fortunate to to work camp for 20 years with Jerry Yeagley in
Gotcha.
Indiana.
Yeah, in Indiana.
And I got to know Harry Keogh very well. I knew
you're
his
right.
family.
Right, the
at
SLU
St.
coach,
Louis U.
yeah.
And you know, and then playing for Coach, he was ahead of his time, believe it or not. You know, a lot of people didn't realize the things that he knew about the game that are still now, that we still do things that Coach did back in the 70s and 80s. You know, he didn't have ladders. He had railroad ties that we jumped over, you know, for fast feet.
Right.
He had pendulums. He had the kick wall. He had all these things that were a vision of his to make us better with our feet and to make us better just as complete soccer players. And I still go back to some of the things that he did with us, just simple little things that still are so important for the game. And I just feel so fortunate to play for him and to work with Coach Yeagley, to work with Harry Keogh, Joey Clark.
Yeah.
You know, those guys just all had a big influence on me, as well as my father did, because he coached me all the way up to
Gotcha.
under 16.
Sure. So you arrive at Chaminade. The brother says, "Hey, we need you. You're here." What does the Chaminade soccer program look like when you arrive?
Jim, Coach Gerker, Jim Gerker, principal.
He had been the
English
coach, right?
teacher.
Yep, we talked a little bit about. Yeah, he was on our podcast. We talked a little bit about that. He
Jim
was the previous
stepped down
coach.
and went back and taught English, and that's how they needed a soccer coach. And I was just fortunate enough that Brother Bear got in touch with me, and went from there and had some great assistants, and Colin Novak, and got Coach Morgan away from Rosary.
Right.
He was coaching Rosary. He took him to a state championship.
Yeah.
And
he beat my squad at Aquinas Mercy in the district final, and went on to win state, and then we got him back the next year. So I knew Coach Mo back from those days.
And Rosary knocked us out one year too in a driving rainstorm at Lindenwood College back in the day. But got Coach to come back and help. Tom Fernandez was an assistant at one time, and then Tom came back as our athletic director. And it just
so Chaminade hadn't won a state title or anything like that in those days. I mean, it'd been fine, I'm sure, but hadn't sort of received the prominence that we earned later.
I think Gerks had a group that got to the quarterfinals one year. I think they knocked off CBC in a district game or a round of 16. Mm-hmm. And honestly, when I came out here for the interview, and it wasn't much of an interview, it was basically sign here, and I'll go down and see Brother Pierre in the business office. I'm like, what's going on here? But Gerks had a good group, and then my first team, Eric Purge.
Gotcha.
Coach Purge was on the team, and
what year was this?
This was fall of '88.
'88. Gotcha.
And we were okay. We had some decent players, but we weren't CBC or SLU or Vianney or DeSmet or any of them. Sure. And as the seasons went on, we were under 500. Had some tough goes. Had some decent players, but just didn't have enough. And it's no knock on anybody. Just there were other players that were better around the city. And then we had a group that came through with a kid by the name of Sartori. His group came through the door in middle school. He was on a Bush team, and the coach of his Bush team was a gentleman named Tom Holmes, who his son came with Timmy, and a guy, Mike Sabo, Tommy Holmes, Timmy Sartori, Matt Capon, Zobris came later, this group, and then those guys really put us on the map. We didn't win a championship, but we competed, and we could beat CBC.
Sort of turned the tide.
We beat DeSmet. We beat St. Louis U High, and we just didn't have any luck a couple of years in the tournament. But those guys really got the ball rolling, and then we got the field put in pretty quick, and that was a big draw, I think, to have a nice natural surface. Sure. And but we had those guys were good players, and with good players became better training. Better training led to better players and more better players, and people would come out to Chaminade and say, "This isn't a bad place to play." Right. And there's some good guys that have been through here. And
reputation starts to turn.
And then the Brad Davis and Danny Hilson and that era came in 96, I guess it was 97. Got to the finals 2 years in a row and got knocked out by Rockhurst both years in 98 and 99, and got beat by CBC here in 2000. Then we finally got through the door in 01 and 02, and got to the final again in 03 and in 06, which we won. Yeah, you had a heck of a run there. And we had an unbelievable run. Well, we had good players. Right. We had not good players. We had great players. Right. And Brad Davis went on to national team fame. Right. Played in the World Cup in Germany, and it just kept the ball kept rolling, but everybody else was getting better too, including public schools. The game started to grow all over the city. Yeah,
that's the change. I want to talk about that a little bit too. Just to stick on a little bit, something you mentioned sort of getting the field put in. Just give some of our current students or future students a sense of where were you playing at the time? What was the changes physically to the sort of soccer program?
My gosh, it
from
was,
'88.
Yeah, sure. Our games were down in the football stadium, which was grass.
Gotcha.
Had about half the bleachers that we have now. And of course now the surface is an artificial surface.
So you were sharing that with the football team?
Yeah,
so
well, for games.
For games, right, exactly. But I mean, that would take a beating, right,
correct,
for football,
correct.
and so not a great surface.
And then we would train and practice. The field that where it is now wasn't there. It was just an open field, which was miserable. You couldn't do even do PE class up there. So there was where the baseball stadium is. There was a field that ran north and south, and there was a hill. And then there was another field down by the creek, and we called that the hole. And we used to practice in the hole. And we played some lower level games down there as well. So then when they put in the first field in the middle, they raised the hole and lowered the middle to have the football, soccer, lacrosse turf field, which is now the baseball stadium. And that was something to see all that undertaking and how that went on and how they built that. It was pretty amazing.
A lot of dirt moving.
A lot of dirt moving, a lot of heavy equipment. And now we've got one of the best, if not maybe the best little baseball stadium in the city.
For sure.
You know, and so then they put the field in a couple years later. I want to say 91, I think was the year. And we were so proud of the field, you know, but there were no bleachers. The parents sat on the hill where the benches are now. They just took their lawn chairs and walked behind the goal. And then we sat on the side where the bleachers are. And there was another hill there, and we just had the benches there, no fence. So we had to chase the ball, you know, in the pillar. We had to chase the ball down on the practice fields. And then it kind of evolved from there with the fence and with the benches on the other side, and brought in some bleachers. And Brother Irv, we got these bleachers, and our handyman, Brother Irv, I'm telling you, this guy could do anything or build anything. And him and Brother Fred, these bleachers came in, and they put them together, them two, in one weekend.
All right.
And I came out, and here are the bleachers on our field. I was like, what the heck just happened here?
Love it.
And it was a fun time, and it was a good time to be here, not just for school naturally, but for soccer. It was we were really starting to get going, and as I said earlier, we just were fortunate to have a lot of good players come through here.
Yeah, so you mentioned Brad Davis, certainly some other guys, maybe the most famous or the most accomplished. Brad Davis, I guess we could say from here as an alum. What sets a player like Brad Davis apart? Is it just his technical skill? What sets him, just to use him as an example, from everybody else?
Yeah, technically he was off the charts. You know, Brad had an older brother that played at CBC, Jeff, and who I know the family very well, and so Brad went to all their training on top of his own training with his guys of Hilson and Thibodeau and Mathieu. All those guys were on the same team, and there was a group of them that came in. But Brad's technical ability set him apart. His understanding of the game, I call it, he had the pause where he never was in a rush. He always let the game open up because he was so good with the ball. He could see the field better because he didn't have to worry about the ball because it was always at his feet. It was always where he wanted it. And some of the things he did in the 4 years here as a freshman all the way up to a senior was really, really fun to watch him play and develop. And he had a good year at SLU, and then he got drafted into the MLS, and he went from there.
Yeah. So maybe the real question is, why did he end up at Chaminade and not at CBC?
You know, I think
did you do some good recruiting?
Yeah,
or something, Vader,
I think Terry. You know, Terry always asked me that. He goes, "What the heck, man? We got Jeff, his older brother, was a great player too." And they actually, my first year in '88, they knocked us out. We gave them one of their hardest games of the year. They beat us 1-0 at Ladue Junior High in the district final. But it took them over 70 minutes to get the goal and beat us. And I think you know, Brad and that crew, a couple of those guys were thinking of coming to Chaminade, and I think, you know, Mom and Dad and Brad came out and visited, and they were like, why not? And he was with his couple of his best buddies, and Danny Hilson and Kevin Thibodeau were here as well, and I think that's main thing. But we were we became better. You know, through that crew with Timmy and those guys. Our reputation was growing, and I think our whole athletic program with what we got accomplished with soccer, it just helped the whole program. It helped every sport. You know, the eyes that were on us.
Amen.
And I'm telling you, when we played down to Soccer Park in a couple of those finals, you couldn't get into the Soccer Park. The year we played CBC and then lost to Rockhurst, 5,500 people, and they were parking a mile away down at the golf course, you know, and they were sneaking in because it was the match of the year. And you know, so the reputation was getting there, and everybody went, man, I want to have that opportunity. And we had those opportunities for about a good 10-year window, and then we had a little bit of good luck in 2010 to about 16, and hopefully we can get back there again.
Amen. So I know this is a very complex subject, but how do you fall, or where do you think this whole club mentality, academy mentality, I can't play high school soccer, obviously I know that's, I'm sure, hurt high school soccer to some degree. It's hurt the level of it at least. Maybe more people are getting opportunities, but kind of talk a little bit about that and where you fall on that.
Well, you know, now that we have our professional team here, if you are a player of that caliber and get the opportunity to play it for St. Louis City in their youth program, I think you've got to take that opportunity. I think the other clubs that are having the academy teams, I really truly believe that the players that play for high school soccer and for us and the CBCs and the Summits and, you know, whether it's public or private, doesn't matter. They're still going to get the opportunity to go to the schools that they might want to go to. Now, everybody's not going to go to Indiana or SLU or SIU, wherever, you know, but if they're the player that we think they can become, they're going to get the opportunities playing here at Chaminade or at Summit or at St. Louis U High or CBC Vianney, just as much as they're going to get the opportunity there. Sure. And I think that all of our high school coaches do a very good job of preparing these kids, not only academically, athletically, but I think we do a very good job of promoting them when they need to be promoted. Coaches still call us from all over the country, want to know what about this. There's the eyes and ears on the players now, you can't hide. Right. And I tell our guys every day, not every day, but you don't have any idea who's watching you play. Sure. And it takes one alum from Indiana or one alum from Virginia or UCLA to be at a game and say, hey, you got to come see this kid play. Right. You know, and that's how it works. You know, and so it's hurt the game a little bit, but our big games are still big games. Sure. You know, when it gets to the state tournament and we play CBC on a Saturday or SLU, it's a big deal. Whoever's on the field, because it's the two schools, right? Because the names of the schools is going to be greater than the players on the field. I don't care who's on the field. It's Chaminade versus SLU opening game of the 2024 season this year. Right. You know, and I expect all of a lot of our student body to be there and family, and it's a big deal. Right. And it's and most of these kids won't play in front of those kind of crowds ever. Right. You know, so there's a little more pressure added to that, and I just really believe that there was nothing wrong with the system, that they could have still played high school soccer through the fall season and then join their clubs and they go from there. And if you really look at it deeper, when we did that, when all the kids did that back in the day, that we had more professional players back then than we do now. Really? Gotcha. Simple as that. Yeah. And we're still lucky. We've got two. We got Tommy Barlow playing for Chicago Fire, and Joey Willis was our goalkeeper here, and he's our goalkeeper at Nashville. And those guys are doing great. Right. Yeah, and they came through the system here, right? Exactly. And some of the guys that went on to Indiana and went on to St. Louis U, they were going to go here whether they played for us or played for the academy team or whatever. That's where they were going. Yeah, and we've had, certainly we've got guys walking the halls now who don't play for us because they're at the academy. We've also had some guys come back too, right? We've had some guys that play academy freshman or sophomore year or something maybe, and then say, hey, it's not for me, or I want to play for my school. I want to experience high school soccer. Right. You know, and those kids will get an opportunity if they're good enough. They'll get recruited if they're good enough, but there's a place for all these kids to play. Right. It might not be, I keep saying the big boys, you know, it might not be SLU or Indiana or those places, but there's a place for them, whether it's a Division II, a Division III, an NAI. And I tell them, if you really love playing, there's a place for you. And it's the game. It's still the game. Right. Are you going to be a professional? Right. Probably not, you know, and especially now with the influx of the foreign students at the collegiate level, it's harder and harder for the American kids. Right. You know, we can go on and on about that, but if the kids really want to play, there still is a place for them to play, and we will help them get there if we think they can play at those institutions. Sure. And a related question, then we're going to get back to a little bit more Chaminade stuff. I know you're involved in the organization, the new Champions League, the High School Champions League. Maybe share with the audience a little bit about what that is and how that kind of came about. Yeah, Greg Keller from St. Dominic, you know, and myself and a couple other guys talked, and we wanted to do a tournament because everybody's kind of got away from the tournament part of the high school season. It kind of took the place of the old CYC tournament, was at Soccer Park. And that lost a little interest because we were trying to play 5 games in 6 days. And we were all for it. It was named after Coach Gelker. It was the Bob Gelker CYC tournament. There was no way we were getting out of it because of Gelks in my connection with Coach. But then more and more teams dropped out, and then Soccer Park was like, so Greg Keller said, why don't we start a tournament? Why don't we start a Champions League where we we try to find the best 16 teams in Class 3 and Class 4 in the St. Louis area, invite them. If they want to participate, we do it. They can be, if we invite them, they take the invitation, they're in. If they don't want to, we'll find another team. So we're ready to go this fall with 4 groups of 4 with, some of the best teams in the St. Louis area that might get knocked out and it's not taking the place of the state championship.
Right.
We're not trying to do that.
Thing. Right.
And it's not going to happen.
And it's different from that because you said this is multiple classes, right? This doesn't have the class
3,
system.
Class 4,
right.
and it could be a Class 2 team down the road,
Right. Exactly.
But it's going to start this year, and we're going to play the final out at the Creve Coeur Park Stadium in October. But it's throughout the whole year. It's throughout the whole season. It's not 6 games or 5 games in 6 days. It's 2 games in a 3-week window, then a semifinal, and then a final on a semifinal on a Wednesday and a final on a Saturday.
Cool.
We've got some sponsorships. We're going to have some scholarships to offer the kids. Certain players, there'll be somebody for the girls and the boys next year that get a scholarship, which will be a pretty substantial gift for them.
Awesome.
And we've cleared everything through Misha, and hopefully it'll be very well supported. And St. Louis City had contacted us too about potentially playing at that venue down the road sometime. Yeah, so if that would come about down the road, that would be fantastic. But right now, first year, get it going.
Sure.
And we're in a group, Chaminade, we're in a group with Eureka, who we don't play, Liberty, and Vianney, which Vianney we play in the season
obviously
anyway.
those, but seeing some other teams that you wouldn't have on your schedule normally, so it's great. And obviously quality teams.
Yeah, quality teams, quality coaches, quality players, and I think it's going to turn into something pretty big.
Good.
As we go.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So, Leah, let's veer back a little bit to Chaminade, which I guess is the reason we're here in the first place. But so, in addition to being the coach, you were a PE teacher for a number of years. Talk to us a little bit about that, about what grades you taught, how that went.
Middle school PE for 9 years, middle school PE and health. Mr. Bander was our leader.
Gotcha.
Mike Francis was teaching health, so that was kind of my introduction when I got the job. Go up and see Mr. Bander. Mr. Bander pawned me off on Mike Francis. And they gave me a book, basically a health book.
Go for it.
Yeah, so then I was in the middle school PE with KB, Kevin Brennan, Don Olms.
Right. Oh, Don Olms was still there.
Then he transitioned into the admissions department.
Gotcha. It was just his last year then teaching. Gotcha.
And then when Coach Morgan came along, so middle school PE and then high school PE, junior, senior. For the last 13 years of teaching, and we had Lifetime Sports, which was a great course.
Right.
We were off campus, and we were doing racquetball, we were doing bowling, we fished. We went fishing at Creve Coeur Park.
I didn't realize that. Gotcha.
And golf. We went to the driving range last period of the day.
Awesome.
We could go down and play 9 at Riverside, down by the soccer park.
Yeah.
And so we had that going, and that was 13 years. And just we had a good PE department, a lot of good people, and Gerks was a great principal, and he allowed us to do those types of things.
Good.
And it was just fun. It was a fun time at Chaminade. It was a great time at Chaminade. Not that it isn't now, because it is, but it was different, back then a little bit. And
I want to dig into that. It was going to be my next question. You sort of mentioned it. What is different from Chaminade, good or bad, irrelevant? What is different about Chaminade from 1988 to 2024?
Well, physical facility for one. There wasn't the skip there, and we didn't have the library where it is now in the new middle school building. The social part of the school, and what we're doing here now, all these things are, I'm not gonna say brand new, but we basically had a full day of teaching and your activity, and that was pretty much it. The thing that I've noticed the most, there's so many more activities, so many more opportunities for the kids, the students, to find something that they can find and like. And if they don't like it, they can tell us.
Sure.
They can tell you guys, and they can go to somebody and say, hey, what about this?
Or I have this idea.
Hey, we have this idea. There's, I think there's enough steam for this to happen. Yeah. The fishing club, perfect
fishing
example.
Club,
down
barbecue
the road.
club,
barbecue club, all that stuff. And we were doing that stuff back in the day, but we didn't take it to the level that it's taken at now. And I think the faculty just keeps getting, better and better, because more ideas, younger. And I think that it's just been the school. I'm not going to say it's a major transformation, but physically it has been. But as far as the education goes, we've got some unbelievable great teachers that have been here almost as long as I have, and I've been lucky enough to get to know a lot of these people.
So what is the transition like into to owning a restaurant? How did that come about? Were you just looking to get out of the classroom, or did the restaurant thing come up? Talk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, JJ Twiggs came up. No, it wasn't. I was really happy being a phys ed teacher and a varsity soccer coach, and I was coaching with I coached over at St. Joe for a couple years. I coached at Viz for a couple years, and now I've been at Summit. This is my 7th year at Rockwood Summit with the girls over there. But on the way to school every day, we drove down Doherty Ferry, and the new plaza was put in. And my wife had this brilliant ideas. Hey, we're going to put a Twiggs in there, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Her dad, my father-in-law, is the JJ of JJ Twiggs.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, right.
James Joseph Costello.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
JJ and his real good buddy, tall, skinny guy, nicknamed Twig,
Gotcha.
opened in Chicago 40 years ago.
Gotcha.
And Teresa was like, we're going to put a JJ Twiggs in that plaza because Starbucks is there, coming soon.
Right.
And Teresa, I'll never forget, we were driving, I was taking her to work one morning, she said, Starbucks has done all our homework. And I said, Starbucks has done their homework. She goes, well, Starbucks don't fail.
Right.
And she was right, you know,
a good spot,
in the
right.
plaza, and we were one of the first tenants along with Starbucks and a couple others in the plaza, and that was 17 years ago.
Right.
And it was 06. And 06 was a good year because we won a state championship in 06, and then we opened in December.
Wow, that's a heck of a
yeah,
fall and
we won
second half of the
we
year.
We won the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We won a state championship, and then we opened up 2 weeks later. And we're still going strong. There's 3 locations now in the area.
Yeah, you've expanded.
So the O'Fallon store is KB, Kevin Brennan's son, Michael.
Gotcha.
He was our manager.
Right.
And we gave him the opportunity to have the business back almost 10 years ago now, 9 years ago. And then a girl that worked for us at both stores helped us out. She approached us about opening at JJ Twiggs down on Southampton.
Gotcha.
And we gave her the green light to do that.
What was the timing? Were you ever teaching full time and doing that, or
Yeah,
was it
2 years.
Oh yeah. So
2 years.
those were busy
It was
days? I
rough.
bet.
It really was. You know, I was.
And is your wife doing that full time, or
She was still working too. 'Cause
Gotcha.
we had a couple partners for a while,
Right.
and but yeah, it was with teaching and coaching in 06 just to get open, and then the run that we were
Right.
on, and you're trying to balance it all and trying to get the restaurant open.
Right.
And then 07 and 08, still teaching full time. I was exhausted. It was hard because I'd be as soon as practice got over, school got over,
Right.
or I had a free period and could sneak away, I was at the restaurant.
Right.
I would make dough balls. I'd roll dough balls for the weekends the night before till 1 o'clock in the
Right.
morning. And you just did whatever you had to do to make the business work. You
Yeah,
did
the restaurant
everything.
business is tough.
You became a cook, you became a bartender, you became a plumber, an electrician, everything. You just had to start learning everything in the business.
Right.
And 17 years later, here we are. And
Yeah,
it's,
but still successful. You're
yeah.
still enjoying
everything's
it.
good. Yeah, I
and how much
enjoy
are you there? How much are you at the
we
place?
we
or how
have a
much-
full-time manager during the day, so my
Right.
days, but in the evenings, Teresa or myself.
Yeah, one of you two
I'm
is there.
I'm all-day Sunday guy.
Gotcha.
7:30 in the morning till 10 at night. It's not so bad when the NFL's on.
Yeah, exactly.
All day Sunday, but
Right.
but we still find time to get away, and I still find time to get down to Arkansas and fish and hang out. Because we have good people that work for us, and we can trust our people.
Right.
And if I have to miss a couple days, we can compensate for it with some other people working.
Sure.
And but the restaurant, we're open every day of the week.
Right.
We close on Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, Easter. That's
Sure.
about it.
Right.
And so you're always on the clock.
Yeah.
2:30 in the morning, you get the call from the police that somebody broke in. One
Right.
time happened over Memorial Day,
Oof.
and didn't get nothing, but had caused a lot of damage.
It's pipe breaks or this
Yeah.
whatever whatever it might be,
anything.
or this oven
the-
goes down, or
The
this
alarm goes off because
right?
somebody comes by and pulls on the door to see if
Exactly.
it's open at 3
Right.
in the morning, and the alarm goes off, and the St. Louis County cops are calling, Mike, your alarm's
Right.
going off.
Right.
Down to the restaurant I
Right.
go, set the
Exactly.
alarm, but it's good. We got a lot of good people that come in, a lot of good customers. We have some pain in the butt customers too, like everybody does, but we try to do our best, and I cook. I'm not afraid to make pizza.
Good for you.
And I kid everybody that if the pizza looks good, it's probably because I made it. But no, I still enjoy it, and it's.
Didn't know all the skill sets you had.
No, I didn't have any idea. And then, like I said, we're getting ready for the playoffs. We start Saturday with the Summit girls,
Right.
so we're, the winter time is when I really can dig in after
Right.
the boys' season until the girls' season starts, and then it's a nice distraction.
Yeah, and on the girls' side, have you always been the assistant coach on the girls' side?
Yeah,
Is that true?
Yeah, but I coached club soccer. I was a director coaching for JB Marine back in the
Right.
day, And I told the girls, they always ask about where you came from and what, the boys don't care.
Right.
But the girls always seem to have an interest in
Right.
what happened. And I was fortunate enough to coach Lori Kolupny.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up too. You
And
had a
Becky
heck of a player
Sau-
there.
and Becky
was
Sauerbrunn.
one of your girls too.
Neither one. Lori won a national championship with our team, with our JV team as a senior player, but we never got through the doors with those guys as being youth players. But we had a national championship in '91. I told the kid, and I can't believe it or not, I forgot this. We won in '91, which was my third year here, and we got invited to the White House.
Oh, very
And
cool.
so we got to go meet President Bush,
Awesome.
along with the women's national team.
Very
at the
cool.
same time, that was when women's soccer
Very
just
cool.
started going
Right.
in '91, and
Right.
they had success, and they were inviting the under-19 national,
Right.
and we were fortunate enough to win it up in Omaha, and we got to go to the White House and
Very
meet
cool.
George Bush.
Awesome.
It was really pretty
Awesome.
special.
So you got 3 national team players under your coaching, is that right? Brad and Lori
Brad,
and
Lori,
Becky.
and Becky, yeah. Becky played for Tim and Jen Bowl, who I helped with those guys. I helped with all the teams, but I had a few teams that I coached myself, and that was one that I helped with, and Tim and Jen did a great job with Becky. And Becky was such a competitor, as was Lori.
Sure.
And they, we knew they were going to be good. We knew Brad was going to be good. And we felt like if those players just kept going up the ladder and kept working at it, they would have a chance. And we were right. Those 3 had a chance, and they took advantage of it.
Good for you.
So
Any funny memories, any significant memories, any fun stories you want to share about our friend Scott Bell here, or anything else before we start to wrap it up?
Well, when we used to have the faculty staff basketball game, which I guess they still have.
They do, yes, they do. Scott's now the referee.
Well, 20 years ago, Scott was a young strapping lad that we
Yes.
fed the ball into all the
Amen.
time, and all the kids would
points.
holler at, "Quit
Right.
giving the ball to
Exactly.
Bell! You can't keep
Now
giving
it's
it to him.
Sean. Now it's Sean
unfair.
Kaiser, who we're going to lose
It's
next
unfair.
year.
Keep
So
giving the
yes.
ball to Scott Bell." But those were fun times, and just the people. I've got so many friends here. It's unbelievable.
Right.
And
Are you part of the big Chaminade fishing group that
I am
fishes
not.
a bunch?
I am not,
Gotcha.
but I wouldn't be opposed to going.
But you're a fisherman yourself,
I
you
am,
said, right?
I
You
am,
love
and I
fishing.
still want. I want
Gotcha.
to get out to Wyoming with the middle school one year,
Gotcha.
but it's so hard because it's
Right.
during
Sure.
season
Exactly.
with the girls. But the people here have been fantastic, and I've preached all the time to all the kids and our teams, and even teachers that I'm friends with to try to be as prepared as you can. Be very humble when we win and very gracious when we lose, and I think we do that well.
Yeah, for sure. We'll just wrap up with our last question. That's kind of the consistent last question for everybody is the school motto, Estovir. What does Estovir mean to Vader? What, in your experience, having lived it, what does Estovir mean to you?
I think it's just be a good person, help when you can, sacrifice, those kind of things.
Yeah, and as you summed it up, win graciously and lose graciously as
Absolutely.
well too, right? So
No doubt about it.
Certainly goes along with that. Well, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for sharing your story, and thanks for all your efforts and your work and your tutelage here at Chaminade for the last
It's all
37
good.
years.
It'll be 37 this fall,
All right.
and looking forward to another season.
Exactly.
Going to have a good team.
Let's go get them. All right, thanks again for joining us too on our latest episode of The Hilltop.